Welcome back to Radio Entrepreneurs, listeners and fans. I'm producer Nathan Gobes filling in for Jeffrey Davis this morning. My co-host for this segment is the one and only John Dustin of JED Insurance. Welcome back, John.
Nathan, great to be here.
Thanks for joining again. And of course, our guest for this segment is the one, the only, the fabulous Marc Z of Marc Z Legal Staffing. Welcome, Marc.
Thanks, Nathan. Well, I can't get me in check with the introduction, but it's very nice of you to say. But it's great to be on your show and to talk about relevant employment situations and what's going on.
Thank you. Of course, we love to have you here. Your updates are highly informative. So tell us what's going on in the job market today.
Well, the latest of what's going on is the whole return, as we talked about last month, got a stall because of the Delta variant. And the way it was dealt with by a lot of places is they've delayed the starts back in the office, the mandatory, to January. But the other thing that was done is it's really a planning situation because a lot of companies and law firms have now said, first of all, with their hiring, unless somebody is vaccinated, we're not interested in hiring. So it's a bold move considering that there's a shortage of good talent right now, but it also is looking to protect the health of their existing employees and the firm in general. And what's interesting is in terms of the remote aspects of it, firms are even saying if you work remotely, but every once in a while could be coming to the office, you have to be vaccinated too. So we're seeing that. That's why, as you know, we look at my business as sort of a lab for discussions here. We're seeing it in our own case that we've had a few candidates that have gone through the process, and we reached a certain point, and we had asked them in the beginning, you need to be vaccinated, or have you been vaccinated? And there were a few people that didn't address the idea, and we thought that given that they were vaccinated, and they weren't. And a couple were fine that said, well, we are going to be vaccinated. But one particular one said, I'm not going to be vaccinated. Even though I'm going to be totally remote, I feel, and only have to go in the office every once in a while, I feel that I don't need to be vaccinated. And the client said they do, because again, if they go in the office. So the whole issue, and that's the last point, is that employers are looking for employees to come back because they realize, yes, we're going to look into hybrid work schedules. So the 5 days a week, it's going to be very unusual to see with most firms and companies, but there are days where you need to be in the office. At least in three days, 2 days, 4 days, that's now become a really important mantra because not only for work share togetherness and bonding, but just in terms of strategy and productivity.
Marc, when you bring new lawyers into a firm, the orientation process and to get them productive, it's got to be much more difficult when they're remote. I mean, especially a younger lawyer with less experience. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So absolutely, John. So that was something challenging early on in the pandemic because a lot of firms were hiring then. And so they needed to bring in attorneys and train them, but they couldn't bring them in the office. So with technology, they did their best. And it was challenging. It was very difficult because the trainers were not used to training necessarily remotely. And the trainees were not necessarily used to it because they thought they'd have the person right there, the person, and a lot of times it's showing something to the trainee. So it's like here, and you could try to show them on the computer, but it's challenging. So that was a challenging point in terms of onboarding and training. But what's interesting, when we have hires right now, even with firms that say this person can be remote 3 days or 4 days, we just maybe have them come in 1 day a week. But initially, many employers are saying, that's fine in terms of a remote schedule, but initially we want them to come in 5 days and then maybe drop it to 4 days, then drop it to 3 days, because they really need to come in, not only for the training, but for the whole connection, so people could feel a confident level. Because a lot of people have only gotten a chance to know their coworkers. A lot of new employees have had the chance to get to know their coworkers just remotely, not in person. And so now that people are vaccinated, now that you can bring people into the office, that's so important.
And you're probably matching both skills and someone that's going to match a culture. So they kind of got to see, I would think law firms are very culture-based.
Right. Right. Well, there's some smaller firms that are like, we need the person in every day. And that was the smaller firms, the personal injury firms, the residential real estate firms, the suburban firms that were smaller. They saw that was really important. Some of the suburban firms ultimately went to hybrid, where people could work out of there, and they've changed. They've even said that to me. We've changed our mantra because they need to compete for talent. And if they're not open to a hybrid schedule, they're losing talent of people that will not go to their firm. So with law firms, a lot of it's about billing and cultural fit, but also billing. So you can't insist on 5 days a week when your competitors are not insisting on that. And maybe you could insist on a hybrid schedule, which is more reasonable in this market.
And I had one question for you, going back to your other topic about vaccinations. There's a question that I've seen swirling around on social media. I wanted to get your thoughts on about whether or not candidates should maybe put their vaccination status right on their resume, cut to the chase right up front. What are your thoughts on that?
For a company like ours, that works primarily in New England and primarily Massachusetts and nearby states, I think it's really helpful because in our neck of the woods in the Northeast, employers are very are pro-vaccination, are really the state support vaccination, and they recognize how important it is to protect the workplace and the workers, unless there's a religious or a healthcare example, which I know people that have had to have that, totally. However, if you're obviously applying in other states like Texas, I would not put it on your resume because in Texas, they're giving people the option, and in Florida too, people the option, and they're saying you should not have that as a law. And so a lot of employers are put in a strange situation, and employees don't have to worry about that. So I would say in the Northeast, it does cut to the chase, and I agree with you, and it will be helpful, particularly in not wasting anybody's time.
Marc, with the future of recruiting younger lawyers, do you know where the law school enrollments are I wonder where they are during the pandemic.
Law school enrollment is up. And what's interesting, during the recession that I was on a panel, like the recession of 2007, 2008, that lasted for many, many years. I was on a panel because with the Mass Bar Association, we were trying to figure out what we could do because there were a lot of lawyers out of work at the time. And one of the recommendations that we made were law schools kept increasing class sizes, because we have so many law schools that either spill into Massachusetts because people that go to law school that are from here or from New England are coming in for the outside to come back home to practice. Or you have people going to the local law schools, BC, Suffolk, Harvard, New England, Mass School of Law, Northeastern. All these schools, we have a lot of law schools, and it's all Roger Williams from Rhode Island. So it's like you're all spilling in. And now University of Massachusetts in School of Law in Hartford. People that are on the border, University of New Hampshire Law School. So there's so many spill-ins that, and there's so many people from these schools. So at the time, everybody felt it would be a good idea to limit class sizes. And that's worked out well because you're now talking We're in 2021, and that was in '08. So you're talking 13 years ago, and it's evolved now that now lawyers are finding jobs because the class sizes, the certain attorneys retiring, fits the bill, as opposed to before with class sizes. It was very challenging, and there were so many people that were investing 150,000 or more in tuition and were not finding jobs. So I think that right now it's important to keep the class sizes, to keep the demand for attorneys, because otherwise you're going to have a problem, and tuition is only increasing with the law schools.
Great. Well, thank you for joining, Mark. Your conversations are always topical and timely. Marc Z of Marc Z Legal Staffing. Mark, if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do so?
First of all, just Google Marc Z, M-A-R-C, and the letter Z. Also, go to marczlegal.com, marczlegal.com, and 617-338-1300.
Great. And of course, John Dustin, JED Insurance, how can people find you?
Phone 508-543-1067, on the web, www.jedinsurance.com, or one word, or via email, john.dustin@jedinsurance.com.
Great. And of course, you can find both Mark and John on the Radio Entrepreneurs website under the Thought Leaders page. We're also on LinkedIn, Facebook, iTunes, Google Play, YouTube. We're all over the place, so you can find both of them and us pretty much everywhere. I want to thank all our listeners and fans for joining. We'll be back after this break.